Nobody knows. Won't shout high. Lord, I thank you that you know. I need you to say that again, the Lord. Come on, I don't think they heard you, the Lord. When I'm weak and tired in my body, the truth is, I would have fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Come on and open your mouth and declare, the Lord is. Joy of the Lord will always, it will always be my strength. Yeah. Come on, we're going a little higher. When I'm weak and tired, testify, Juanita, and I can't find any strength. It's no strength of my own that I'm here. Oh, come on, we're going home. Your strength is made perfect in my weakness. And that's why you will always be. You will always be my Lord. So lift up your head. Lift up your head. Lift up your hands, oh yeah, yeah. Come on, talk to him, Juanita. And be lifted up. Yeah, everlasting doors and the King of Glory. And the King of Glory, he shall come in. Oh, God goes well, who is the King of Glory? I know he is the Lord. I know he is mighty. The Lord mighty in battle. Mighty in battle. Thank you, God, for being my strength. It's no strength of my own. Come on, everyone, for the last time. Shall I? Come on and declare. Whom shall I feed? Come on and open your mouth. The Holy Ghost power. Hey, do you want it? The Holy Ghost power. Oh, I need it. The Holy Ghost power. Oh, go back to the altar. Down on your knees. Say that. Let me say it again. Oh, I got it, Lord. The Holy Ghost power. Oh, you let it down. The Holy Ghost power. I need it, Lord. The Holy Ghost power. Oh, go back to the altar. Down on your knees. Oh, stay there. The Holy Ghost power. Listen to this. I remember a long time ago when the saints used to pray down at the altar where they saw the Lord and they called it for the Holy Ghost. Hey, I got it, Lord. The Holy Ghost power. Oh, do you need it? The Holy Ghost power. Church, I need it now. The Holy Ghost power. Oh, do you want it? The Holy Ghost power. Church, I need it now. The Holy Ghost power. Oh, go back to the altar. Down on your knees. Stay there. Go back to the altar. You need to go back to the altar and get that Holy Ghost power. You need to go back to the altar and get that Holy Ghost power. Somebody needs to go back and get the Holy Ghost power. Everybody go and say, Lord, in Acts 1 and 8, you shall receive power, Lord. After that, the Holy Ghost is coming from you. Go back, yeah. Go back, go back to your. You don't pray like you used to pray. You don't pray like you used to pray. Some of you don't fast like you used to fast. Some of you don't sing like you used to sing. Some of you don't love like you used to love. God, go back home. Go back. The preachers don't preach like they used to preach. The deacons don't pray like they used to pray. The choir sing like they used to sing. You need to go back, go back. Go back. Down on your knees. Stay there. Go back. Some of you need to go back. Some of you need to get down on the altar. You need to stay right there and get that Holy Ghost power.
WDDO, W300EB, Macon, Perry, 107.9 FM and 980 AM. The Glory.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnette, Westbrook, and Mr. DUMAS.
And good evening and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host. We'll be joined later by President WESTBROOKS. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather outside. We couldn't say the same thing for Sunday, of course, with the storms in the area. I hope you didn't lose power or you didn't lose any type of damage to your homes. We've been having some very awkward weather here in the mid-state, and I think it's not going to be any different in that we're expecting some real cold weather in the next few days. And so just strange weather in Georgia right now, but we got to enjoy the good weather while we can and look forward to staying safe when the bad weather comes. Excuse me, the NAACP this past weekend, we had a gala that was held at Porter Ellis, and we thank all of you who participated and purchased tickets for this event. They're just another fundraiser to help our organization move forward in that we are a volunteer organization, and so our funding comes from the various fundraisers that we have each year. Of course, our biggest fundraiser being the Errol T. Shinholster Freedom Fund Banquet. But we had a great time celebrating with our gala this past Saturday, and we want to thank everyone who came out, and I'm sure if you came out, you enjoyed yourself, some good food and music and dance. And so we had a great time. We also want to shout out to everyone who celebrated Valentine's Day this past week. All you gentlemen out there, hopefully you were very kind and endearing to your loved ones, and made sure that they got at least some candy or a nice set of flowers or even a beautiful meal for that evening. Love is in the air as we celebrated July 14th. I mean, February 14th. I'm moving ahead real quick. February 14th as Valentine's Day. Also, we do know that February we celebrate Black History Month, and Black History Month for the month of February is a very short month, but of course we try to acknowledge those who have made major contributions, not only to this community, but across the United States as African Americans. And just want to highlight a few people today. First of all, want to highlight Mr. Joseph Lowry. Mr. Dr. Lowry, Dr. Joseph Eccles Lowry, was born October 6, 1921, and passed away March 27th, 2020. He was an American minister in the United Methodist Church and a leader in the civil rights movement. He founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others, serving as its vice president, later as the chairman of the board, and its third president from 1977 to 1997. Dr. Lowry participated in most of the major activities of the civil rights movement in the 1950s and the 1960s, and continued his civil rights work into the 21st century. He was called the Dean of the Civil Rights Movement, and so we send out for our African American acknowledgement Dr. Joseph A. Lowry, a pioneer in the civil rights movement. Also, like to also acknowledge one of our local heroes, the late Dr. D.T. Walton Jr., who faithfully supported and served many local organizations. He was a dentist here in Macon locally. He funded educational scholarships, food and shelter for people in need, and after-school programs for children. He was twice honored for his community service and efforts by the City of Macon and Meals on Wheels program. Dr. Walton also established a donor advisory fund with the Community Foundation, ensuring that his family will continue his legacy of giving from generation to generation. And so we salute those two patriots here during Black History Month. I see President Westbrooks has joined us. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
And we've just been highlighting some of the accomplishments of African Americans here, not only here in Middle Georgia, but also across the state.
Right. And so, yeah, I was listening to you a few minutes ago. And yeah, we got Black History Month. And this is so crazy because it just seems like people want to erase our history.
Wow.
And now people, not just our history now, the Holocaust and different other
ethnic groups
that, that's been actually, some of them on national holidays or MLK. We're looking at all of that just being basically abolished. So, we have to do what we need to do in order to keep Black history alive, because you can't erase something that took place.
Absolutely.
Is part of our history. And I think, a lot of times people, they look at that as in a negative manner because they want people to move on. But I just feel that people need to know their history in order to know where they're going. Just like with this DEI, and a lot of our young people are not going to understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
Because they're going to have to be educated. So in order to be educated, we got to take them back to the history as to show why we're fighting so hard for um
For these
for
things to
these
stay
things
in
to be
place.
to stay in place, or for them not to abolish these types of things that are put in place. And so we're not saying that and they're making it seem like Black people are not qualified, that they're just giving these positions just given to Black people because
Of their color.
they're Black,
Right.
saying that they're not basically educated to be for the position. They're just getting the job positions because of the color of their skin, and that's not the case. You have to be qualified also, and it's just crazy. But like I said, we have to teach our kids. I just think that in order for you to be able to know where you're going, you got to know where you come from.
Absolutely.
And I think that the enrichment of our history is so very important that is continued to be taught in the schools. And I know that there are consequences, they're even talking about now with the is it the colleges that they're gonna stop funding them if they don't abide by the executive order that he's put in place. So it's just crazy, a lot of things that are going on. But we want to keep people educated. We want to talk about some of the accomplishments of
African Americans.
yeah, and I was looking at um looking at here, Ida B. Wells. She was born into slavery and later emancipated with her parents as conclusion. But she was also one of the founders of the NAACP, Ida B. Wells. She was a African American pioneer of science, African American hero. So she was, part of the she was a part of the anti-lynching crusade, and that's why the NAACP was actually organized,
Yes.
because of that. And she was one of the founders. And so we got so many people that took part in history. Shirley Chisholm, Bayard Rustin. He was part of the organizing the march to Washington. He was the key organizer in 1963 for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and was one of Dr. Martin Luther King's closest advisors. So there were many people that took part in the history of the NAACP. We talk about the Emancipation Proclamation and all of that, but a lot of people, like I said, you have to just be educated. A lot of people not familiar with the fact that everybody was not freed at the same time.
Right.
The people in the South, while the people in the North was freed, the people in the South was not was freed. So everyone was not freed at the same time.
Right. And it's questionable, I guess, as we move forward, the livelihood or the length of time we'll celebrate Juneteenth. I guess that
Right.
too would be possibly up in arms as this new administration. So
yeah, and we can't forget about Harriet Tubman. She have ensured the final defeat of slavery in the United States by aiding the Union during the American Civil War. So a lot of people were not familiar with that she was part of the Union. They thought she was just freeing slaves, but she was freeing so many slaves. They made her part of the Union to end slavery.
right.
Um,
And it was interesting, almost comical to a degree that some people didn't really understand what the Underground Railroad was.
right.
It's so if we don't teach and give the full scale of what transpired in these events, our children will be somewhat
Right.
confused about what it really means.
Yeah, and I would encourage people to go to the First Baptist Church in Savannah, where they, the first time I went, I basically cried through the whole
Tour.
tour, and I stopped doing this, Mr. Dumas. I remember when we was there, because I've done it in church. I raised my hand, and exit out, raise my finger, exit out. And they was like, that's when I found out that that's what they did in slavery.
Right.
When they were in church, they did that to their master to be excused to go to the restroom. So I don't do that anymore. I just leave out. I don't raise my finger to do that. So, and when I find out, so it was really emotional for me during that time. When we did the tour, because they even showed us where the slaves were. It was a crawling space, right. And it was holes in the top of on the floor that was shaped like diamonds. And the masters, they came, they didn't know what it was. They thought it was a religious symbol, but it was actually holes put there for breathing when the slaves were crawling under the crawling space of the floor. So, and they would do that in where the church is, sitting. The crawling space led them to the river. And so it was, I'm just saying, for them to tell the story, you have to actually go there. I remember, when the people were killed in South Carolina, at the I can't think of the church. I can't remember. But it was, they were murdered in the church, and we went to the funerals there, and we ended up doing some touring while we were there. And I can see why, Serena, kind of refused to play in that state. They took us to a place where slaves were sold, and I couldn't take it. They had to take me to the car.
Wow.
I was boohooing so, and I was like, I just can't. I just want to go to the car. I just sat in the car till everybody got back to the car. It was just too much for me. But slaves were actually, they would stand them on a box, and the museum was closed that day, but you could actually see inside, and it had a sign, something like Negroes for sale or something like that. But it was really emotional for me. So, people need to know that happened.
Absolutely. I know we used to go up for the Moores Ford reenactment up in, I think that's near Walton County, where this family was lynched. This particular gentleman, his wife was raped by this white owner that owned the property where they were living.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband confronted him, and he was locked up. And then the very guy who had him locked up went up and posted bail so he could get out. And the reason for that is he had plotted to lynch he and his wife, And so as they were driving from downtown, they had some friends that caught a ride with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going over what they call the Moores Ford Bridge. And as they got ready to cross that bridge, they were ambushed by the guy who had him arrested, as well as some other guys. And they actually cut the baby from his pregnant wife at the time.
Right.
And they were killed. They were all, lynched.
I was reading here Claudette Colvin. A lot of, we talk about Shirley, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, but Rosa Parks. But Claudette Colvin, she was a civil rights pioneer also. She was arrested. She was actually arrested at the age of 15 for refusing to give up her seat to a white woman, 9 months. So she was one of the first people that was arrested. We do know that Rosa Parks, also Fannie Lou Hamer, was very instrumental during that time. Fannie Lou Hamer was a part of Black history that made history. She was one of the most important, passionate, and powerful voice. Fannie Lou Hammond was, and of course Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat and moved to the back of the bus. That's where it all started. And so, we got to have some own, people here in Macon. The district attorney is the first Black African American to be district attorney. We have, like saw you mention heard some you mentioned some of the people that were
Here
that made
locally.
part of history locally here, and we have a history. We had a bus boycott here in Macon also, and then also that's where Miss Thelma Dilla's mother come into play because they board versus Brown versus Board of Education was one of the highlighted that put the NAACP on the map when we won that case, Brown versus Board of Education, where they blacks and whites were not able to attend at the same schools.
Right.
And then Bibb County adopted that, and Judge Boodle was the one that overturned it here in Macon. We actually gave him an award before he passed for his recognition for supporting the civil rights movement and making sure that the people in Bibb County and Macon were able to attend school, whichever school that they wanted to go to at their choice. And so, people, I hear some people talk about segregation. They think it's better. You learn more. So I don't know. It's just the fact that they want us to be separated, and we should have choices just like everyone else. There's Madam C.J. Walker, who was part of the Black History. She became a self-made millionaire despite Jim Crow oppressions. Walker founded her own hair care company that helped thousands of people. So I was seeing something that I think they're making a movie about Madam C.J. Walker, and I'm looking forward to.
They made one because I got a chance to watch one.
That may be the one I'm thinking that is just coming out. But there are so many people of color that made history, that took part in the civil rights movement, that made a difference, and that's why I say every person should be voting because people died for us to have the right to the things that we have, because people don't realize that the 14th Amendment was actually made for us,
right,
put in place for us, because people said they don't want you to talk about that, but when you get a chance, you read the 14th Amendment. It was actually put in place for people of color. So I just want people to understand that we have such a rich history, and I promise you, if you start researching it, you're not going to want to stop. And other races study our history.
Mm-hmm.
They you got people who that's all they do. I'm saying, and they know our history better than we do. We have an interesting history.
and a lot of our history is behind the scene history. I was looking just the other day. There's a female that was instrumental with Zoom, being able to use Zoom, and so you also have a black guy who was instrumental with cell phones, and so that's just a lot, of history that we've done, but the credit hadn't been given as well. So
right, and we have Malcolm X, of course. He had a different style, but he was part of him. He was very powerful. A lot of people were afraid of him because he
had more of a radical approach.
Right, yeah, he was more radical, like you say, but he became very powerful. And a lot of times when people become powerful and they're knowledgeable, people are afraid. Yeah, and they feel threatened, like you say, of those people. So we have so many people that took part in our history. I want to I wanted to read this right quick, because the NAACP has issued a statement, and they have listed the businesses I'm trying to pull it up.
And while we're speaking of Black history, of course, we just celebrated our Founders Day on February 12th, the NAACP. And of course, I think presidents were invited to go to the Capitol for.
Right. We did. It was awesome. We celebrated the 116th anniversary Founders Day, which was February 12th. And we were there in Atlanta. We was in the state capitol. We were speaking with different legislatures, senators, and state representatives came over and spoke with us. So some of the plans that they, some of the bills that they talked about, some of the bills that they're trying to introduce. And so it was a very powerful meeting that we had. We all came, I just think that we all have to come together. Because when we're united, we're more powerful when we're united. I just think together we stand, divided we fall. It's just simple as that. I was trying to see what this article says here. Because I wanted to read exactly from okay,
That's
here it go right here. It says, if it'll come through. But the NAACP has listed the names of the companies that are
choosing to go with the
that have done away with DEI,
DEI.
and they're encouraging that we're not doing boycotts, but we're asking people to shift their businesses to businesses of
Black
people of
business
color, and
owners.
not just that's not for. We're not just saying we're just not this is just not for Black people. If if you would stand for what's right, then you would stand with us. And it says here, Washington, the NAACP wants Black Americans to steer their buying power towards companies that haven't pulled back from diversity, equality, and inclusion. And so a lot of people are not understanding what that means. Diversity, we already know that. We talked about that earlier about the diversity, where you have some. It used to, before this happened, because I was a part of the diversity, in the inclusion and the equality, because myself and two other females actually integrated a company where there were no Blacks in that department. And we were not put in that position because we were just
Not
Black. We
qualified.
had to be qualified. We were
Right.
qualified for the job. So, but a lot of jobs, a lot of places are saying, that you had to, it had to be diverse. When you come in a department,
You want
you
to see
just see
people
one
that look
particular
like you.
race, right? And so, these companies have opted out of that. Since this executive order has been signed, they've opted out. So we're asking, we're just telling people that to use their buying power to get people's attention. It says here to pull back from diversity, equality, and inclusion programs under conservative pressure, and the nation's oldest civil rights organizations listing which brand have stood by or reversed past commitments. The NAACP says that spending guide. The NAACP says the spending guide is published Saturday, if needed, because DEI initiative promotes the social and economic advancement of Black Americans who are projected to consume nearly $2 trillion in goods and services in the normal dollars by 2030, according to the Kinsley Institute for Black Economic Mobility. Diversity is better for the bottom line, NAACP President Derrick Johnson said, and in an exclusive announcement to the Associated Press. In a global economy, those who reject the multicultural nature of consumerism and business will be left in the past they are living in. And it says Keisha Bross, an economic strategist at the NAACP, says that they are not calling for a boycott of companies, but instead encourage consumers to buy in on companies that back their values. People of all backgrounds are encouraged to use this Black consumer advisory, and it did list the names, and I saw it earlier where it lists the names. I know Walmart,
Amazon,
Target, McDonald's. Let me see. Yeah, here you go. NAACP is speaking with executives at the company's name in the advisory for reversing their DEI policies, including Lowe's, Target, Walmart, Amazon, is it Meta, McDonald's, and Tractor Supply, and will update its guidance as companies roll back or reaffirm commitment. So people are asking for this. I've been getting phone calls telling me don't buy anything on certain days, and people are saying that it's people that are one thing about I say it over and over. Macon got to get serious about what matters, and until we do that, we're gonna be so far behind. I just think that that's why, Mr. Dumas, I try to we try to lead this organization in a respectful manner, and but we have to stop being able to be bought out.
Right.
When if somebody has something, a few dollars they want to give people, their integrity does not mean anything. We got to stop being able to be bought out. We got to stand for what's right, and you see that in different organizations. You see, a lot of people are not coming out. People are not being supportive of what the cause, and they're just not speaking out. And I'm just dumbfounded, as to something as much as going on, then nobody is really speaking out. And that's why people are able to get things done in other counties or in the cities, other states, because they're not afraid to stand for what's right. And so, when you start talking to people and you're like, but then when they're calling the NAACP saying, I heard this is going to happen, but you're not a registered voter. So these type of things makes a difference. Your voting and your spending power has a lot to do with the outcome of a lot of different things. And so that's what the national president is saying, that we spend a lot of money, and a lot of folks don't shop like Black Americans do.
Right.
And we spend a lot of money, and I just think that we should be supporting companies that.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening.
Come join us next Monday at 4:00 p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants